The story begins in a rehabilitation facility, where several people recovering from addiction sit together in a circle and share their personal experiences. Soon after, a nurse enters the room and announces that an urgent phone call has come for a patient named Darby. Darby goes to take the call and learns from a family member that her mother suffered an aneurysm and is currently in a hospital in Salt Lake City, with her sister Devon already there. Hearing this news naturally makes Darby anxious and concerned. Later that same night, she secretly calls her sister Devon, and it becomes clear that their relationship is strained. Devon makes it obvious that she has no interest in seeing Darby, but Darby ignores her feelings. Determined to leave, Darby sneaks out of the facility, steals a car, and drives away. During the trip, she briefly stops by the roadside, triggering a flashback that reveals a painful moment from her past, when her sister and mother discovered her unconscious from an overdose inside a car. And then, returning to the present, a police officer informs Darby that every road ahead has been shut down due to an approaching storm, advising her to wait at a nearby visitor center until conditions improve. Accepting the situation, Darby drives over to the location. After arriving, she notices a few other travelers inside who are also waiting for the storm to pass. She steps into the restroom and checks messages from her sister, which repeatedly warn her not to come to the hospital. Feeling overwhelmed, Darby pulls out a small packet of cocaine, but after a moment of hesitation, she decides not to use it. Some time later, Darby walks out to the parking area hoping to find a signal on her phone. When something unexpected happens, she follows the strange sound and suddenly realizes that a young child is restrained inside one of the vehicles. Darby attempts to open the door but discovers that it is locked, so instead she snaps a photo of the van's license plate and reassures the child that she will return before heading back to her own car. She tries dialing 911, but unfortunately there is absolutely no phone signal, forcing her to go back into the building. Inside, she studies the people around her, understanding that whoever kidnapped the child must be one of the individuals in the room. After sitting down again, she meets the others: Sandy, who used to work as a nurse, her husband Ed, a former Marine, Lars, an awkward and socially uncomfortable man, and Ash, who seems confident and friendly. Ed suggests that they pass the time by playing a card game together. Everyone forms a circle and begins the game, while Darby casually asks questions about where everyone comes from and where they are traveling, though her real intention is to identify the kidnapper, especially since the van's license plate shows it is registered in Nevada. Darby becomes visibly tense when she discovers that Lars is originally from Nevada. Meanwhile, Lars is clearly losing the card game, and reacts in this way. His behavior makes it obvious that he is not mentally stable. Using the moment as an excuse, Darby steps away and enters a restroom marked out of order, where she attempts to text 911 about the kidnapped child and even sends the photo of the license plate. However, there is still no signal available. Understanding that she will have to handle the situation herself, Darby stands up, grabs a hammer, and pries a wooden plank from the wall, uncovering a small opening large enough to crawl through. She quietly moves through the space and eventually reaches the van again, where she manages to unlock the door using a thin metal rod and climbs inside. As she begins trying to free the child, she notices a medical alert bracelet around the child's wrist. But then, Devon wraps herself in a blanket while Lars gently speaks to the child, revealing that the child's name is Jay. Lars suddenly stops when he realizes something. At that moment, Darby notices that Lars has a handgun tucked into the back pocket of his pants. Lars settles down again and starts talking about someone called Uncle Kenny, explaining that he is taking Jay to meet him. Afterward, he steps out of the van, mentioning that he is going to grab some snacks for Jay to eat. Realizing there is very little time left, Darby hands Jay a box cutter, then climbs out of the van and quietly slips back into the restroom. When Lars later reaches the side of the vehicle, he notices footprints pressed into the snow and immediately grows suspicious. At the same time, Ash, now concerned, starts knocking on the restroom door to check if Darby is alright. But before Darby can fully explain the situation to him, feeling uneasy, Lars eventually walks away, giving Darby the chance to tell Ash about the young girl tied up inside the van and that Lars probably suspects she has discovered the truth. Ash becomes visibly nervous after hearing this. He grabs a nail gun from a nearby tool cart in the room and quickly forms a plan. According to the plan, Darby should step outside again and make sure Lars follows her out. While Lars is distracted, Ash plans to inform Ed, the former Marine, about the situation. However, when Darby climbs back into the van once again, Jay innocently asks where the men who kidnapped her have gone, revealing that more than one person is involved. Darby glances outside and notices Ash and Lars standing together, speaking quietly to each other. Ash now holds the handgun, while Lars carries the nail gun. Together, they prepare to ambush Darby. Darby manages to sneak back inside the building, so Ash and Lars soon return indoors as well. Ash traps her in a corner and snatches her phone away. He erases the messages Darby tried to send to 911 earlier and then reads through the text sent by her sister. From those messages, he realizes that Darby's family does not want her at the hospital and clearly holds resentment toward her. Meanwhile, in the main hall, Ed starts feeling that something strange is happening. He decides to step outside to investigate. Ash begins interrogating Darby, pressing her with personal questions about her family. He even asks how Darby's father died, and a frightened Darby admits that her father took his own life by shooting himself. In a disturbing manner, Ash lifts the gun and points it at her head while asking which part of the head the bullet hit. Furious, Darby calls him a child molester, and in response he explains that he is only doing this for money, because Jay's father is rich and would pay a large amount to get his child back safely. He also mentions that Jay has Addison's disease, meaning too much adrenaline could be dangerous for her, so Darby interfering actually made things worse. Inside the van, Jay has started cutting away the duct tape that holds her using the box cutter Darby left behind, just as Ed approaches the vehicle and tries to open the door. Strangely, Jay stays completely silent this time. Returning to Ash and Darby, their tense moment is interrupted by Sandy, who asks if she can talk with Darby privately. Before Ash walks away, he quietly warns Darby not to reveal anything, threatening to kill everyone if she does. Terrified by the threat, Darby keeps the truth from Sandy, even though Sandy can clearly see how shaken she is. Instead, Darby changes the topic and asks about brain aneurysms, wondering if her mother might still survive. Afterward, the two women walk back to the main hall and sit down again with the others. A short time later, Darby notices that Jay has managed to free herself and slip out of the van. Ash and Lars notice it as well, prompting Lars to rush outside to chase after the child. Ed and Sandy, however, still seem completely unaware of what is happening. Darby returns to the restroom, so Ash excuses himself and follows after her. And then this happens, the two suddenly start fighting, and because Ash is physically stronger, he quickly gains the advantage. He grabs Darby and begins choking her. Fortunately, Lars arrives just in time before Ash can seriously hurt her. Lars tells him that the child has run toward the hiking trail and they need to go after her immediately. The kidnappers then force Darby to come along and help search for the child. As they move along the trail looking for Jay, Darby refuses to cooperate with them. She suddenly shines the flashlight directly into their eyes, catching them by surprise. Startled, Ash fires his gun, and Darby quickly moves to dodge the shot, but in doing so she loses her balance and begins tumbling down the hill. Back inside the building, Ed and Sandy hear the gunfire, prompting Ed to rush outside to investigate. Darby crawls away and hides while Ash and Lars search the area for her. Fortunately, she manages to stay out of their sight. Meanwhile, Ed comes across Jay lying unconscious and quickly carries the child back inside the building. As soon as they notice the bracelet on her wrist, Ed and Sandy realize that the girl has a medical condition. At that moment, Darby finally makes it back inside and tells them everything that has been happening. Soon after, Ash and Lars arrive outside the building and begin shouting. Ed quickly stacks chairs against the front door to block it and buy them some time, and when he sees the kidnappers getting closer, he shouts. Hearing this, the kidnappers step back and start arguing with each other, unsure if Ed is bluffing or telling the truth. Inside, it becomes clear that Ed actually doesn't have a gun at all. The kidnappers soon come up with a different approach. They begin yelling that the girl is sick and that they are the ones carrying her medicine. Inside the building, Sandy, the former nurse, starts to hesitate. She tells the others that the kidnappers might be telling the truth, because Jay already looks so pale that she could die without treatment. However, Ed and Darby refuse to give in, and Darby reveals that she secretly took the kidnappers' car keys earlier. Realizing they now have leverage, Ed shouts outside that they are willing to trade the car keys in exchange for the medicine. Furious, Ash and Lars walk back toward their van. But when they return, they are not holding any medication. Instead, they carry a gasoline can, showing that they intend to burn the building down. Ed tells Darby to hide every set of car keys, because the kidnappers will not kill them if they have no way to leave the area. Meanwhile, outside, the kidnappers begin pouring gasoline along the outside walls of the building. Sandy is visibly terrified by the situation. She takes out a can of pepper spray so she has something to defend herself with. During all this chaos, Jay slowly regains consciousness and says to Sandy, it soon becomes clear that Jay and Sandy actually recognize each other. The story then shifts to a flashback scene, revealing that Sandy works as a housemaid in Jay's home, where Jay constantly bullies her. We also see another moment showing that when Jay is later abducted and cries out for help, Sandy simply watches and does nothing to protect her. Another flashback shows Sandy speaking with Ash on the phone, where Ash angrily complains that they cannot locate the girl's medicine and demands that Sandy bring it to them so Jay doesn't die. Returning to the present, Sandy suddenly shouts. She then sprays Darby directly in the eyes with the pepper spray, allowing the kidnappers to finally enter the building. Ash hands the medicine to Sandy and instructs her to give it to the child. After that, Sandy, Ash, and Lars begin arguing with each other. It is revealed that Ash and Lars never intended to return Jay to her parents and have no interest in the ransom money. In reality, they are part of a child trafficking operation and plan to sell Jay to someone else. Shocked by this revelation, Sandy begs them not to do it, but she is far too scared to resist them. Instead, she tells them to just take the child and leave, and she reveals that Darby hid the car keys somewhere behind the building. Ed protests strongly, and then Darby reaches toward the pepper spray lying on the floor, but Ash gets to it before she can. He then walks over to Sandy, who is still barely alive, and finishes killing her. Ash drags Darby over and pins her to the wall using a nail gun before turning to Lars, who is crying because the pepper spray has gotten into his eyes. The two kidnappers go to the restroom so Ash can help Lars wash his eyes, leaving Darby stuck to the wall. Fighting through the pain, Darby tries pulling her wrist free from the wall but cannot force herself to do it because the pain is too intense. She spots a hammer nearby and tries to reach it, but it is just out of her reach. Realizing she cannot grab it herself, she asks Jay for help. Meanwhile, in the restroom, Ash is assisting Lars in rinsing the pepper spray from his eyes. Lars appears shaken, clearly not expecting that Ash would go as far as killing someone. Jay manages to pass the hammer to Darby, but before Darby can free herself, the kidnappers return to the room, forcing her to hide the hammer for the moment. Ash approaches Darby again and questions her about where the car keys are hidden. He unlocks her phone and reads the latest text message on it. Then he leans close to her and quietly says, Darby silently weeps and refuses to respond. And then it turns out that the message Darby sent to 911 earlier has finally gone through, and the police are already on their way to the location. Ash and Lars immediately become desperate. Ash grabs the child's arm and points the nail gun directly at her wrist. Seeing this threat, Darby finally gives in and tells them the keys are buried outside in the snow near the bathroom. Ash passes the gun to Lars while he goes outside to find the keys. It becomes obvious that Lars is extremely disturbed and uncomfortable with all the violence happening. Darby quickly forms another plan. She tells Jay to walk toward the light switch and turn the lights off, because she believes Lars is not as cruel as Ash and would never hurt Jay. Even though she is scared, Jay follows Darby's instruction, while Lars begins to panic and shouts at Jay to return to her seat. Darby uses the moment to pull out the small packet of cocaine from her pocket and snort it to dull the pain. As soon as Jay turns off the lights, Darby takes advantage of the darkness to pull the nail out of her wrist, while Lars struggles to grab Jay. Ash suddenly returns to the room and sees Darby pointing a gun at Lars. Ash looks tense, clearly showing that he cares about Lars. Jay rushes forward and knocks the nail gun out of Ash's hands, but then, feeling guilty and shaken, Ash runs to help Lars, while Darby and Jay quietly escape outside and get into Darby's car. Ash tries helping Lars stand and recover, but then the earlier fall has driven the nail deeper into Lars' head, which ends up killing him. With Lars now dead, Ash becomes extremely furious. He storms outside and starts firing at the car. One of the shots destroys a tire, causing Darby to lose control and crash the vehicle. While Darby is still trying to regain her senses, Ash decides to set the building on fire. Just as Ash begins walking toward Darby's car, a police officer arrives and orders him to step away from the vehicle. By now, Darby has regained full awareness. She grabs a screwdriver and also takes hold of a gun. Now the officer becomes suspicious of Darby. She attempts to explain the situation, but the officer suddenly shoots her in the stomach. Ash, who is still alive, grabs the gun and shoots the officer. He then stands up and points the weapon at Darby. Nearby, he notices that the officer is still breathing, so he grabs the nail gun and repeatedly fires at him until the officer dies. After that, he takes the officer's firearm and returns to finish off Darby. But then Darby suddenly stabs him in the throat with the screwdriver, killing him. Using the last of her strength, Darby crawls across the snow to reach the officer's radio. She calls for help just before losing consciousness. In the following scene, Darby is back at the rehabilitation center, and it is revealed that more than a month has passed since the incident. When she returns to her room, a child's drawing can be seen on the wall, showing that she has stayed in contact with Jay since everything happened. A nurse knocks on her door and tells her that someone has come to see her. Darby walks into the lobby and sees her sister Devon sitting there, ready to repair their broken relationship. Darby smiles with relief, and the movie ends there. If you'd like to see more recaps like this, let me know in the comments which movie I should cover next. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe.